Hi, I'm Veli from Greenwood Solutions. Today's presentation is on solar DC connectors. We're going to look at the different types, how they're put together, what tools used. So at the end of this, you'll know exactly what to do when selecting the right product for your next commercial solar project. But before we get into it, hit that subscription button. Let's go. Under Section 45(1) of the Electricity Safety Act 1998, the Act, it requires a person who is responsible for the carrying out of prescribed electrical installation work to 1. Ensure the work is inspected by a licensed electrical inspector. And this happens before the electrical installation is connected to the electricity supply. Remember, solar is classed as a prescribed electrical installation. This excludes the testing requirements of Regulation 245 of the Electricity Safety General Regulations of 2019. So we're talking solar DC connections. These cables and these connections, they're carrying a lot of energy. And since July 2012, it has been a requirement under the standards that when you make a positive with a negative, they have to be from the same manufacturer. And this is really, really important. So if you're using a particular brand here, over here, it has to be the same brand. 30% of PV systems installed in Victoria contained mismatched DC connectors back in 2019. 18 to 20% of PV systems installed in Victoria contained mismatched DC connectors in 2020. Failure in many solar installations was the result of different brands of DC cable connectors mated together. Now, why is mismatching solar DC connectors so important? Installing or certifying a solar system with mismatched DC connectors is a breach against Section 44(1)(a) of the Electricity Safety Act 1998. ESV may take enforcement action if there is a breach. There is a risk of fire or smoke installation from mismatched DC connectors. That's why it's so important. Even if you are correctly matching your solar DC connections, incorrectly crimping or using the wrong crimping tools can also result in issues, being arcing. And it's a really big problem out there, incorrectly crimped solar DC connectors. So we have a table here which shows the brand of the panel, the connector type, and the company that produces the actual connector. So in the case of the first panel, the connector type is T4 series, or MC4 EVO2, or the H4 UTX. So Canadian Solar have their own brand, Tillian. The H4 UTX is made by Amphenol, and the MC4 EVO2 is made by Stalbly. So there's three different connectors that possibly can come on those particular panels. Now the REC panel uses Stalbly MC4 PV KBT4 and PV KST4, and they're all under the Stalbly banner. So Stalbly basically bought MC4 out. The next panel uses the TS4, and that's their own brand. So Trina have their own branded connector. Now the JA Solar uses quite a few different connectors: Hiscon, Stalbly, QC Solar, and Amphenol. So again, it's really incredibly important to make sure that the panel you're getting has a connector that you know and understand, and that any of your connections are using the same connector. First, you identify the type of connectors used on the solar panels being used on site. Make sure you have the exact male and female connectors in your kit. Always use the right crimping tool for the connectors you are using. Be aware of the correct torque when cable connector back screw cap is secured. Follow the manufacturer's guidelines. Again, read the manual. Do not energize a solar installation prior to the work being inspected, apart from testing. Now here we have some different O-rings and body shapes, and that's one of the ways you can determine the different brands of connectors out there. So you can see in the first top left picture, there's a greyish white O-ring. Top right, red, and the bottom right, red again. So also there's going to be different body shapes as well. So what are the things to look for with these solar DC connectors? One thing is the O-ring. A lot of different brands have different colours, not always the case. The other is the body shape, the contour shape of the actual connectors, both the male and female. And the third thing is the logo. The logo should be the same on both the positive and the negative connectors, and that obviously makes sense. Now the tools required are varied. The first is pliers to cut the solar cable, and obviously as a installer you have your own preference for what you use. Wire strippers to correctly strip the DC cable, and the crimping tool. Assembly and unlocking tool also is very important. Now in Australia, there is no requirement for a torque wrench to be used to tighten up the screw or the back screw. In America, it is a requirement that you carry a torque wrench, an accurate torque wrench that allows you to do up these connectors to say, between 3.2 and 3.5 Newton meters. It's only a matter of time before it comes to Australia, but at this point in time you don't. But intuitively, you'd think to do them up all the way so they're touching. No, but there has to be a gap. And of course, as I always say, if in doubt, read the manual. The correct bending radius of the cable exiting the connector. Now you can see here in the first picture with the cross, the angle is pretty severe and the minimum should be a 20 mil straight section. And obviously they're talking about the pressure put on the connection inside the connector. Now correct crimping methods. You can see in the first one, the crimp is sort of pointing to 1 o'clock. The second one is pointing to about 10 o'clock. And in the correct position, it's pointing to 12 o'clock. Conclusion. Solar DC connectors must be from the same manufacturer. This is a shall, not a should. Always use the correct tools and techniques as specified by the manufacturer. Bad crimping can lead to arcing, and while the sun shines, this arcing will continue. Do not energise a solar installation prior to the work being inspected, apart from testing. Thanks for watching our presentation on solar DC connectors. Now you're all set for your next commercial solar project. If you have any questions, any inquiries, or even any answers, please feel free to drop us a line and hit that subscription button so you get these videos fed directly to you, however that works. Bye for now.